Hi there, Hi there, smart drivers. Talking to you tonight about frequently asked questions that I get about passing a driver's test and being successful first time. That's what we're going to talk about today. Give you tips, strategies, and information so that you can be successful on passing your driver's test first time. Apologies about that. So a few people are here already. If you're just tuning in, let us know where you're tuning in from. Let us know what class of license you are going for, any questions you have, and how we can help you out. Corey is here, Brooks for Wheels. Corey is the moderator, does an excellent job of getting up the videos I suggest you have a look at for more information. And basically the way it works here is we give you questions and answers. You ask questions, we'll give you the answers that you need to pass your driver's test first time, become a safer, smarter driver, or start a career as a truck or bus driver. Marion is here. Hello, Marion. And Marion, I've been remiss. I still haven't got that video up for you on left-hand turns. I do apologize. It's been busy, but we're all busy, right? No, I'm not going to say that. I didn't do it. I'm a bad person. We will get that for you. I'm glad I checked. 4:30, no, 4 o'clock. We try and give notice if we do, but most of the time 4 o'clock Pacific Standard Time for the live stream. I also do one at 9 o'clock in the morning. So it's, if you miss the one at 9 o'clock, you can catch the one in the afternoon at 4 p.m. So that's what we're doing with the live stream. So a few new things here happening. New video up yesterday on 5 questions asked truck driving school. I know that, you know, there's no shortage of jobs right now, and there are definitely no shortage of truck driving jobs. And if you want to go to truck driving school, definitely ask those questions because it is expensive to get your truck driver's license right now, especially if you're in one of the provinces that has the MELT program, the mandatory entry-level training program. And unfortunately, that has pushed the price of getting your tractor-trailer license up to between $15,000 and $20,000. Yeah, I said that right. $15,000 to $20,000 to get your tractor trailer license. So it is expensive. And the first question I tell you to ask truck driving schools is, where is the funding? Where am I going to find money to be able to fund this? Because remember, it's not just the tuition fee, which is $15,000 to $20,000. Whatever else you need, clothing, equipment, those types of things, and as well, you have to live during the time that you're going to school, the 6 to 8 weeks, 10 weeks. You need to live during that time. So you have to figure out how you're going to, you know, pay for rent, pay for food, pay for gas for your car to get back and forth to truck driving school and whatnot. So figure out where the funding is. There should be government funding available. And unfortunately, this MELT, the mandatory entry-level training program, is coming to the United States as well. So it's going to be expensive. My friend Rawson is here. Hello, Bura. Hello, my friend. Thank you for your kind words there. Yes, Marion, it's not cheap to get your tractor-trailer license now. Megan, hello. And Valhalla, how are you, my friend? A few people here. And so, like I said, if you have any questions, we'll do the presentation, get through that, and it's about 10 or 12 minutes, and then we'll come back and spend the remainder of the hour answering questions about passing your driver's test. And tonight we're talking about frequently asked questions, those questions I get asked all the time about passing your driver's test. And no, in the time that I've been on YouTube, this has not changed very much with the driving test. They're still pretty much the same. Some of the technology has changed in the last 7-8 years that I've been doing YouTube. Lane assist, adaptive cruise control, backup cameras, blind spot detectors, all great technology on vehicles that are going to help you to improve your driving skills and significantly reduce your chances of being involved in a crash. However, saying that, lane assist, adaptive cruise control, blind spot detectors, backup cameras, they do not negate all your other tools that are going to keep you safe when you're driving. 360-degree scan around your vehicle, 360-degree awareness all the way around your vehicle, shoulder checking, looking out through the back window, using your mirrors, using your backup camera, all those things when you are driving to keep yourself safe. My friend Epic, watching from Easton, Pennsylvania area. My brother is about to start driving school. They already scheduled the test for him in November. It might need to New Law, New Jersey, 50 hours of training and 10 hours at night. Yes, and that's with your GDL program, your graduated driver's licensing there, Epic. But yes, and there are other places in Australia where you have to keep a logbook. You have to present that for your driver's test, and you need, as you said, 50 hours of driving time and 10 hours of night driving time. And that's, 10 hours of night driving time. That's a fair chunk of time to be behind the wheel at night. Elevator fan got himself a fancy dancy new haircut today, which is interesting because my my son got his haircut today too. Interesting. Valhalla, glad I only have to pay around $2,000 for my bus license here in Montreal. Yes, so it seems, Valhalla, that you're lucky that in Montreal the MELT program has not yet reached our great French province there in the east. Rawson, and you got to make sure that you engage the parking brake every time you park, because so your car won't roll away. And yes, that is a habit that you want to do not only for your driver's test, but also after you start driving. Apply the parking brake every time you park the vehicle. That way it's going to be there when you get back, because I know it's an automatic transmission and I know that it's labeled park, but it's not really for the purposes of parking. You want the brake to hold the vehicle, not the transmission. So that's what you need. Is it bad to signal unnecessarily on the test? Yes, because you do not want to confuse other drivers and other road users. So you want to make sure that you signal approximately 6 to 10 flashes before the turn. That's what you want. 6 to 8 is ideal when you're driving. So we'll get over to the presentation here. We'll come back and we'll finish answering all your questions about passing a driver's test. So, frequently asked questions, those questions about passing a driver's test, we're going to give you the information you need, those little details that I get asked all the time about being successful on a driver's test is what we're talking about. For those of you new to Smart Drive Test, my name is Rick August. I was a truck driver in the 1990s, hauled freight between Ontario, Canada, and the United States. Became a licensed commercial driving instructor in 1997, and most of my instruction career has been with big trucks, semi-trucks, buses, passenger vehicles, logbooks, air brakes, all that stuff. 2006, I graduated from the University of Melbourne with a doctorate in legal history, which is the study of policing, courts, and prisons. And if you want to know more about me, you can check out the autobiography over at the Smart Drive Test website. Corey put up that link for you. I think he already has. And he's also put up the video on applying the parking brake every time you park the vehicle. While I was going to university in Australia, I also drove buses for Greyhound and one of the regional bus lines there. So I have bus experience as well as car experience, trucks, buses, all that good stuff. New stuff this week. Corey's already put up the video for 5 trucking questions. Corey's already put up the video for 5 questions you need to ask a trucking school to be successful on earning your Class 1 license, earning your bus license so that you can get out and start earning money. So have a look at that as well. Pass first time, look at that podcast over at the Smart Drive Test website. All right, your turns are too wide. This is what a lot of students are doing, is they're turning too wide, especially when they first begin to drive. And the reason that their turns are too wide is due to the fact that they didn't spend enough time in the parking lot doing reverse parking, backing around corners, those types of things, because you need to spend the time with slow speed maneuvers so that you can have mastery of the primary controls, the steering wheel, the brake, and the accelerator. And this will correct your turns when you start driving out on the roadways. Parking maneuvers and all the other maneuvers that are required on a driver's test are going to improve and fix your overall driving. The other piece about this is when you're learning how to drive and you are in a parking lot, this allows you to focus just on the backing up. This allows you to focus just on turning the vehicle, because when you're out on the roadway in traffic in the city, there's too many other things going on that are going to mess you up. So you don't want to be doing that and learning how to center your vehicle in the lane when you're out on the roadway. It's much better to be able to do that when you are in a parking lot and you can just focus on doing that. And as I said, it's not sexy. You don't want to do the work. Usually your mentor doesn't want to do the work with you either, but it will fix all of your, not fix, but it'll improve all of your driving. So spend some time on doing that. All right, steering wheel control. Do I have to do hand over hand, or can I do hand to hand? Most places, Europe, here in North America, do hand over hand is what is required for the purposes of the driver's test. If you're not sure what you need to do on your driver's test, call a local driving school. Ask them whether it's hand to hand or hand over hand. Most of the time it's going to be hand over hand. Okay, it's just faster, it's quicker. It gives you better control of the steering wheel, allows you to get around corners. This kind of milking the cow thing, push-pull on the steering wheel, it's not effective, and I do not advocate students doing that or using that when they're driving. Now, can I let the steering wheel slide back through my hands? Yes, you can. So long as you keep your palms in contact with the steering wheel, you can allow it to slide back through your hands. And as soon as the wheel stops, just grab a hold of it and then look in the direction you want to go and steer the vehicle. Finally, can I put my hand over the passenger seat when I'm reversing? Yes, you can. It is the one time that you can use one hand to steer the vehicle is when you are backing up and put your hand over the steering wheel. This way it allows you to move your hips around so that you can look out through the back window. All right, and that's the reason for putting the hand over the passenger seat and using one hand is to get around and look out through the back window. And yes, you must do that for the purposes of your driver's test. All right, how do I merge in traffic? Bumper to bumper merging is one of the things that gives new drivers a great deal of grief because they think that it's going to be bumper to bumper traffic all the time. The only time that it's going to be bumper to bumper traffic when you're merging is if you are doing it during congestion in the morning or you do it in congestion during the afternoon. Most of the time you're going to be just fine. When you're on the on-ramp, you're on the acceleration lane, and you're looking out at the traffic out on the highway, look at the spaces between the vehicles. Pick your spot that you're going to merge into, and that way it's going to allow you to get your vehicle up to speed and merge into that spot. The other golden rule of merging is if there's a semi-truck out on the highway, merge behind the semi-truck or in front of the semi-truck. If you're not comfortable with getting your vehicle going, getting on the accelerator and really accelerating on the acceleration ramp, then move in behind the semi-truck and then reclaim your space and get your vehicle up to speed. I'm scared to drive on the interstate or freeway. How do I overcome that? Go out when there isn't a lot of traffic later in the evening or earlier in the morning, and go out with somebody that you trust, a mentor, your parents, those types of things, and get some advice about how to drive on the highways and those types of things. One thing that a smart driver told me a couple of weeks ago that was working for him or her was they went out with their friend. Their friend was driving another vehicle and they simply followed them out onto the highway. So that was the other way that helped them to overcome their fear and trepidation of driving out on the highways and interstates. What is the tolerance for speed on your driver's test? The tolerance for speed is probably no more than 5 miles an hour over or under, and it's probably no more than 5 kilometers an hour over and under. The piece that you need to know about speed control is that it's tied into your observation, and you are looking far down the road in checking your center mirror, far down the road checking your instrument panel, and you're doing that every 15 to 20 seconds. So you should be adjusting the speed of your vehicle every 15 to 20 seconds when you're driving. That tells the driving examiner if you are over consistently 5 miles an hour over for the duration of your test, you're not going to be successful. You need to be adjusting your speed every 15 to 20 seconds when you're driving. Can I go 5 miles an hour over the posted speed limit? That's probably the absolute maximum that you can go over. If you go over any more than that, you're going to be assigned major demerit points. So one of the things that I did not talk about is that there are 2 ways that you are going to fail your driver's test. You're going to be assigned demerit points for minor and major errors, 5 to 10 for minor errors, and 10 to 20 for major errors. The other way is you can fail outright. Corey will put those 2 videos up for you. So know that if you are going 5 miles an hour and you don't adjust that speed pretty quickly, you're probably not going to be successful. But it is very easy to control speed of these newer vehicles. Anything in the last 20 years is very easy to control. as well. There's a video here on the channel, how to control your speed. Corey will put that up for you as well. So how fast do you drive for the purposes of the road test? It's either the posted speed limit or the flow of traffic, whichever is less. So if the speed limit is 30 miles an hour, 50 kilometers an hour, you need to be driving that speed. If the traffic is going slower than that because there's a bottleneck, there's construction, those types of things, then you need to be driving slower and keeping up with the traffic. Shoulder checking. Yes, you must shoulder check every time you change directions of the vehicle, whether it's left or whether it's right. And yes, even though you're turning left and there's a concrete barrier and there's nothing there on your left-hand side, the reason that you were turning left and turning right every time you change directions of the vehicle is to develop that habit. Because we know as traffic authorities that you were going to crash 3-4 times in a driving career of 30-40 years. That means that every 15 to 17 years you're going to crash. So, shoulder checking every time you change directions of the vehicle is not going to save you today, tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, 5 years from now. But in 10 years, it may pull your proverbial bacon out of the fire. All right, the car moves when I shoulder check. The reason the car moves when you shoulder check is because you're shoulder checking too slow. You're going like this. And then the vehicle goes where you're looking. Shoulder checks have to be really quick. Quick turn of the head is what you're doing when you're shoulder checking. So, quick turn of the head, quick turn of the head. You're turning your head so that your peripheral vision, your 180-degree peripheral vision, turns in this direction. It's attracted to light and movement. And if there is a vulnerable road user, a pedestrian, a cyclist, a kid on a skateboard or whatnot is in your blind area, then that allows you to look again and then make compensations in your speed and space so that you can stay safe when you're on the roadway. Lane turn positions. Where do I stop for when I'm waiting to make a left-hand turn? I teach stopping at the edge of the intersection and waiting until the gap presents itself, okay? So the car on the other side of the intersection, the gap is behind that car. When that car gets to the crosswalk line, then you start moving straight into the intersection and meeting that gap and turning at the intersection. You're going to spend less time in the intersection in case something goes wrong. Because as I say, if something goes wrong and you're in that intersection and you're waiting, you're not going to be involved in that crash or that incident or whatever happens in the intersection. So stopping positions at controlled intersections for the purpose of your driver's test, before the stop line, before the crosswalk line, and if the crosswalk line or the sidewalk doesn't exist, then at the edge of the intersection where the two roads meet is where you're going to stop at controlled intersections, stop signs and traffic lights and whatnot. Move to the right lane after making a left-hand turn on a multi-lane road. Yes, you have to do this, and no, the examiner is not going to tell you to do this. All right? It's something that you have to do, and the reason that you have to do this, every state, every province has a sign that says, slower traffic, keep right, except to pass. And it applies in the cities as well. Because you're on a driver's test, because you are doing the posted speed limit, you are going to be the slowest vehicle on the roadway. So therefore, you need to be in the right-hand lane. So after making a left-hand turn on a multi-lane road, move back over to the right-hand lane. And the only time that you stay in the left-hand lane is if the driving examiner says to you, listen, in a couple of blocks, you're going to turn left. Then you would stay in the left-hand lane. And if you're in the intersection when the light turns yellow, you need to expedite the turn. You need to get through the intersection as quickly as possible. So if you're waiting at the crosswalk line and the light turns yellow, then you need to drive straight into the intersection. Excuse me. Double, triple check that the oncoming traffic is in fact coming to a stop. And when it has come to a stop, when you're absolutely certain that it has come to a stop, then execute your left turn and clear the intersection as quickly as possible. Backing up, can I use a backup camera for the purposes of my driver's test? Yes, you can use a backup camera. You cannot use it as your primary line of sight. Look at your backup camera, look at your mirrors, but you have to be looking out through the back window for the duration of your drive, for your backing up. Okay, you do have to look out through the back window, as I just said. And as well, what is a 360-degree scan? It's a 360-degree awareness around your vehicle, looking all the way around your vehicle and making sure that there aren't any other road users around your vehicle. And I do advocate that approximately every vehicle length, just slow and do another check around your vehicle to make sure that there aren't any other, pedestrians or bicycles or anything like that that are in the blind areas around your vehicles, because flanks, you want to protect the flanks. The flank is the side, right? It's a military maneuver. If one army wants to defeat another army, they have to outflank them. That means they have to get around to their sides so that they can get into their blind areas and attack them. And that's what happens is when you are driving, you need to look into your blind areas, because those are the flanks of your car to keep yourself safe. Do I have to signal on a 3-point turn? Yes, you do have to signal on a 3-point turn. Both going forward and in reverse. And every time you reverse, you have to signal. It's the same thing on a driver's test. Every time you change directions of the vehicle, both forward and in reverse, you have to signal. You have to communicate effectively to other traffic on the roadway. So reversing both forward and backwards, shoulder checking when you're changing directions of the vehicle, shoulder checking and signaling every time you change directions. Okay, parking. If I hit the curb, will I fail my driver's test? If you hit the curb and you knock the examiner out of the seat, yes, you will fail your driver's test. If you touch the curb and readjust, no. Unfortunately, most beginner drivers do not have the experience to know the difference between touching the curb and banging the curb. So many drivers will say, oh, I just banged the curb and the examiner unfairly failed me. No, that's not true. Oftentimes what has happened is you've pushed the back tire up over the curb and aren't aware because you simply don't have enough driving experience. Do I have to apply the parking brake every time I park the vehicle? Yes, you do. Okay, every time you park the vehicle, and even after you learn how to drive and get your driver's license, apply the parking brake every time you park the vehicle. That way your vehicle will be there when you get back. The transmission is not designed the vehicle, and I know that there are a lot of people who are going to say to me, oh, when it's on level ground, I don't need the parking brake. Drivers don't have enough experience to know whether they're on a hill or not, okay? Because I used to teach truck driving, and when you're on a hill going uphill or downhill, it affects the shifting on the big truck. And it took students a long time to learn that they were on uphill or downhill and that they had to change their shifting accordingly. Okay, how many pull-ups do I get on a maneuver when I'm on my driver's test? You get 1 pull-up before the examiner starts to assign demerit points. Now, if the driving examiner deems that you're a good driver and you make 2 boo-boos and you got to pull up, they're probably not going to assign you just demerits for that. They do have discretion in what they're doing when they're on the driver's test, so know that. Can I adjust my mirrors for parallel parking on my driver's test? No, you can't. The driving examiners have a limited amount of time, and they're not going to wait for a couple of minutes while you're adjusting the mirrors on your car, and you shouldn't have to do that anyway. So know that you can't adjust the mirrors for the purposes of your driver's test. You can't. Okay? Good luck on your driver's test, and remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. All right, Megan, I kind of still struggle with knowing if the wheels are straight or not when parked. And yes, one of the things you can do, Megan, is you can put a piece of tape on the top of the steering wheel. Also, start to keep track of the steering wheel when you're turning it. Steering wheels on passenger vehicles turn 1 revolution, 1.5 revolutions. So if the tires are straight, 1 and then another half is full turn to the right, and then 1/2 full turn to the left, okay? So if you can keep track of that, that's going to make it easier when you're reversing and whatnot. The other piece about reversing that is difficult and challenges new drivers and learning drivers is that when you start backing up, the vehicle becomes 2 pieces. because of something called off tracking. So when you're reversing and you're parallel parking and you've got the wheels turned so that the car is going in like this, the front of the car is going that way and the back of the car is going that way. And that can be a bit of a skill that you have to learn. And this is why I advocate and I counsel you to spend some time in the parking lot doing backing up, reversing, just reversing in a straight line, reversing around corners and those types of things, because it's going to improve your overall driving. And that's what you want to do, is get so you improve your overall driving. Megan, yes, that does help a bit, except when I've turned the wheel all the way. Yes. And you just have to figure out. And then if you've turned it all the way, Megan, is you just half a turn and then a full turn to come back. And this is why on going back to 3-point turns and whether you have to signal when you're backing up and those types of things, is when you turn and you approach the curve on the other side, that I teach that you come back to straight on the steering wheel. That way, when you start reversing and you want the back of the car to go in that direction, then you only have 1.5 turns to go to the right, as opposed to trying to go 3 full turns on the steering wheel from full left to full right, because that can be difficult to do because you're like, and you're trying to whip that steering wheel around. Whereas as you approach the curb and you go nice and slow and then you bring the steering wheel back to straight, then you're straight and then you go the other way, it's going to be a little bit easier for you in terms of manipulating the steering wheel and doing your 3-point turn. Anthony, I have problems with right-of-way on uncontrolled intersections. It seems people don't like to yield to people on the right. My instructor told me more defensive in these situations. Any advice? Uncontrolled intersections. I'm not quite sure what you're talking about, uncontrolled intersections, because there aren't a lot of uncontrolled intersections. And basically the way that right-of-way works is that major road over minor road, straight through traffic over turning traffic, right turning traffic over left turning traffic. Those are your basic rules for turning. And there are very few uncontrolled intersections. If you're on a major road, that could somewhat be defined as an uncontrolled intersection, but still the minor roads are intersecting with the major roads, and they almost always have a stop sign or a yield sign when they're coming into the major intersections. So uncontrolled intersections, I'm not sure what you're talking about. Maybe you could send me an email, Rick at Smart Drive Test, and send me an address of uncontrolled intersections. I'd give you some more information about that. Will the examiner tell you to pass a car when there's one slow car in front of you? No, they will not tell you to pass a slow car in front of you. And for the purposes of a driver's test, you are going to be the slow vehicle because you're doing the posted speed limit. Unless you get somebody that's driving exceptionally slow, it's not likely that you're going to encounter that situation on a driver's test. Patrice, what are the top 3 things a first-time freeway driver in LA should keep in mind? Okay, so first and foremost, keep space in front of your vehicle, okay? Keep that 3 to 4 second following distance between you and other traffic. And yes, other cars are going to cut in front of you and take up that space, but make sure you have that space in front of you. Because if you're not near anything, it's less likely that you're going to hit anything. So keep that space when you're driving on the freeway. As well, the other piece about it, if for first time freeway, go at a time that it's not busy, okay? Go later in the evening, earlier in the morning, and then that way you can get comfortable with it. And then again, merging out onto the freeway, look at the spaces between the vehicles, pick your spot, pick your space, and get up to speed, match the speed of the traffic on the highway, and then merge out onto the interstate. So good luck there in Los Angeles. And again, what I said before, take somebody with you that you trust. Have a friend drive their vehicle and follow them out on the freeway and those types of things, and all of that will help you out. Epic, another thing that new drivers will start to encounter are divided highways, jug handles, pretty common in Northeast for a driver from outside that region of the United States. This is unusual. Jug handles, yes, these are New Jersey. These are a landmark of the Garden State. They are not anywhere else in the United States. And essentially what a jug handle is, that instead of coming up to a conventional intersection and then making a left-hand turn, it's a road that makes a jug handle, goes off to the right and comes back around so that you drive through on the cross street through the intersection and you're not making a left-hand turn, because left-hand turns are a high-risk maneuver, and they work really well. They're great. Jug handles are awesome. The only problem is the cost owing to real estate. They take up a lot of real estate. So I've never seen them any place other than the state of New Jersey. So if you go to New Jersey, know that they have jug handles, as Epic just said there. Patrice, you're most welcome. Ross, and I do stop for pedestrians because I scanned the crosswalk. Yes, and that's the other piece, exactly what Rawson was just saying about mapping and tracking intersections. As you're approaching the intersection, you're looking for pedestrians, you're looking for vulnerable road users, you're mapping and tracking those road users at the intersection. Is their path of travel going to cross your path of travel and your direction? That's what you're looking for when you're approaching intersections. The other piece about that, we know that more than 40% of crashes happen at intersections, and 50% of traffic fatalities are vulnerable road users. Pedestrians, cyclists, kids on skateboards, scooters, and motorcycle riders. The place that you are most likely to cross paths with these vulnerable road users is at intersections. So it becomes incredibly important for you to scan and map and track intersections. MIT, mapping intersections, tracking road users, and tracking their movements. Marion, don't we have some of them here too? Marion, I can't say that I've ever seen a jug handle in British Columbia. Maybe we do have them here, but I've never seen them. Rawson, and I do see birds on the road, and I just keep going because they fly. Yes, Rawson is referring to the videos with Charlie, where we were on a training lesson, and there were birds on the road, and he slowed down for the birds on the road, and I said to him, because here where we live in British Columbia, we have quail, and for whatever reason, they can fly, but they prefer to walk, which is weird. I mean, if you can fly, why wouldn't you want to fly? I mean, that's just cool. It's like Superman walking around everywhere with his cape flowing and billowing out behind him, right? And so Charlie, the quail, are walking across the road, and Charlie slows down. He's waiting for the birds to walk across the road, and I said, you know they fly, right? You know they fly. That's what Rawson is referring to, and Corey will put that video up, the playlist up for you on Charlie. You can see that funny bit there. All right. Who else here? Excellent. Marion said, I had a goofy driver behind me that went around me as I put my indicator on to move into the right lane after turning left at a traffic light. I just waited until he passed and then changed lanes. And yes, Marion, you did exactly what you need to do. If other drivers, other road users are doing something goofy on the roadway, just take your foot off the throttle, wait for them to go by, wait for them to carry on with their life, and let them go and have their crash somewhere else, because that is the second reason for traffic crashes: failing to give the right of way, right? I have the right of way. I am going. And we end up in a crash, right? The number one reason for traffic crashes is following too close. Many drivers follow too close. If you watch and measure traffic and its following distance out on the roadway, you'll see that most drivers are following at 1 second, maybe 2 if you're lucky. You want to maintain a 2 to 3 second following distance. And the reason that we know drivers are following too close is due to the fact that the number one crash in North America and probably in the world is rear end crashes. It is the most reported insurance claim, even more so than windshield damage. So we know that rear end crashes happen a lot, and that consequently, the reason for that is because drivers are following too close. They're being reactionary. They think that they can react quick enough to avoid a crash to the front. And as I say, oftentimes you can't. So if you have that following distance, that 2 to 3 second following distance between your vehicle and the vehicles in front, it's going to give you time. Space buys you time. Time buys you options. Options prevent crashes. And it's the same piece on a driver's test. You need that 2 to 3 second following distance between your vehicle and the vehicle in front. Because if you're not near anything, it's less likely that you're going to hit something. So at all costs, whatever speed you're driving, and I admit, when I drive my car, I keep up with traffic flow, but I never never give up that 2 to 3 second following distance in front of my vehicle, because it is the most critical component of being a safer, smarter driver. Marion says exactly. Yes, let them have their go and let them go and have their crash somewhere else. That's exactly it. Rawson, and you also want to pull over to the curb and stop for an emergency vehicle. Yes, that is an automatic fail on a driver's test if you do not do that. And years ago, you've probably heard me say this story before. Tom had been doing his class 1, his truck driver license training, and he came in the day before his test, and he's like, oh, I got this, you know, and he had it all together. He had his pre-trip was good, his backing up was good, he could hook and unhook the trailer. I'm pretty sure the deer just walked through the backyard because Stryker's losing his mind over here. And so anyway, Tom, so we're out on the training, we're coming down Hospital Hill, and the ambulance comes out of the station there. And unfortunately, before we got down to the intersection, it turned. And I was like, damn, that would have really been a good test for him. Anyway, we get down to the bottom of the hill, and the fire trucks come out. And the fire truck goes past, and of course, he didn't stop for the emergency vehicle. And I looked at him and I said, you just failed your driver's test. He's like, what do you mean I just failed my driver's test? I said, you have to pull over and stop immediately when emergency vehicles go by. And so you need to pull over to the closest shoulder when an emergency vehicle approaches. Now, if you're at an intersection, sometimes it's best to stay stopped, okay? Not move, because if you're stopped and the emergency vehicle comes up behind you, oftentimes they will go out into the oncoming lane and then move through the intersection. So it's better to just stay stopped, because if you move through the intersection and you're trying to turn the corner and those types of things, it could be confusing to other traffic, and it could be confusing to the person driving the emergency vehicle. Marion, yes. This is one thing about where I live here. We should call the deer. I mean, we have deer just like walking through town. It's funny because there's a whole herd of them that lives down by one of the roundabouts here in town. And they'll just kind of saunter across through the roundabout, and they're not really concerned about traffic because everybody stops. But Stryker, he thinks that he's a big deer hunter, and he sees them and he's just like, let me get one. Let me get one. And I'm like, you're so little and they're so big and they're just going to stomp you. Marion, I have to watch my speed when I am doing my graduating test. I seem to be growing a heavy foot. Marion, you're not the only one. You're not the only one. My friend Mallory is here from the Maritimes. Hello, Mallory. How are you, my friend? Welcome, welcome. Evan, before changing your speed, look in your rearview mirror. When you see a hazard ahead, look in your mirror in case someone overtakes you or someone is tailgating you. Yes, absolutely. Have that 360-degree awareness around your vehicle of where other vehicles are behind you and whatnot. Because if you're changing lanes, if you're going to slow down, you don't want somebody parking in your trunk. So this is defensive techniques against being rear-ended, all right? Because keep in mind, not only do you keep that space in front to prevent you running into cars in front of you, but also so that you can prevent other vehicles from running into you is what you want to happen, okay? So it's defensive techniques against you being rear-ended as well, because if you're going to slow down, coming up someplace you're going to turn, or at an intersection, traffic light, or those types of things, look in your center mirror and you're looking at the vehicle behind you about how close they are, right? If you cannot see the headlights of the vehicle behind you, you know that they are really close and that you probably should take countermeasures so that you don't get rear-ended and they don't park in your trunk. Rebecca, I'm starting to drive and I'm driving the speed limit on the right-hand side. Is it normal for everyone to pass me because they look irritated? Am I doing anything wrong? Rebecca, no, you're not doing anything wrong. If you drive the speed limit, everybody's going to be passing you because you're the slowest vehicle on the road, because traffic flow, the speed that everybody else is driving on the roadway, is faster than what you were driving. And this is why it's difficult for new drivers, because other people show their annoyance. This is the other part of social driving. Driving is a social activity, and we've coined the phrase social driving. It's the dangerous activities that everybody else engages in after they get their license. And exactly what you just said, Rebecca, everybody's passing you because you're doing the speed limit. They're not doing the speed limit So you're doing the right thing, okay? And they're going to be annoyed because other people think that what they're doing is right. They think they're good drivers. So they're doing that, all right? So know that social driving, they're following too close, they're speeding, driving over painted islands, not coming to a complete stop sign at stop sign intersections, and they're policing other people's driving behavior and telling them that they're doing something wrong. So they're giving you an irritated look because you think you're doing something wrong. So know that it's nothing that you're doing wrong. And this is one of the challenges of learning how to drive and being a new driver on the roadway. Megan, changing over to the right lane to make a right turn, but there's other cars in the lane. Do you stop in the lane you're already in and wait for the lane to clear or keep driving? No, Megan, if you want to merge into a lane, adjust your speed accordingly so that you can move over, put your signal on, and then move to the outer side of your lane. Not out of your lane, but if you're moving to the right, hug that right side of the lane. And I will guarantee you that within 6 or 7 flashes of your signal, other people will let you in, because if you're crowding that right side of the lane and you've got your signal on to tell other people that you want to move over, somebody's going to create a space for you, okay? Because you've used the position of your vehicle and you've used your signals to communicate to other traffic that you want to move over into the other lane. So that's how you do that. Mallory, failure to yield is another reason for traffic crashes. Yes, it is. And in fact, Mallory, it is the second biggest reason for you to be involved in a crash. Elevator, I had a semi-truck cut me off and my older brother off today. Yes. Don't drive in the blind spots around big trucks. If you see a big truck coming out on the highway, or they're turning, or they're changing lanes, or those types of things, either get in behind them or get in front of them, okay? Because they do have big blind areas. The other piece about semi-trucks, you don't know how long that driver's been behind the wheel, because in the United States, they can drive up to a maximum of 11 hours. And here in Canada, they can drive up to a maximum of 13 hours being behind the wheel. You don't know how long they've been behind the wheel. You don't know how tired they are. You don't know how aware they are. And you don't know if you were driving in their blind areas. So if you are passing or moving past a big truck, get as past as quickly as you can and don't hang out there, all right? And it's going to be less likely that you're going to get cut off by a big truck, because they're like everybody else. They make mistakes. They don't do it on purpose for the most part, but sometimes it happens, unfortunately. 247, what advice would you give a new driver who plans on taking a road trip for the first time in the future? Okay, so road trip. 247, how long is your road trip? How far is it, is what I'm asking. I'm taking a road trip in the summertime. I'm driving from British Columbia to Ontario, Canada, which is 4,000 kilometers. It's 3,200 miles. And so the first thing you need to do when you're planning a road trip is you need to figure out, okay, how far is it? So if it's 1,000 miles, say, for example, and you've got 2 days to do it, well, you're going to have to drive 500 miles a day. How long are you going to be driving? If you're driving 500 miles a day at 60 miles an hour, you're probably driving 6 to 7 hours a day. So that's the first thing you need to do on a road trip. And then plan your breaks. You want to take a break every couple hours. You want to get out of the car every couple hours, okay? Food and water, drinks, snacks, those types of things in the car. What are you going to be doing about? Okay, so 14 hours. So it's going to be 2 kind of 7-hour legs of the trip. One of the things that I do when I drive for long periods of time is I love listening to audiobooks. And they're very easy to get on your phone now, and you can run them through your stereo system, listen to podcasts, those types of things. Obviously, you can listen to music and all those wonderful things on satellite radio and whatnot. But me personally, I like audiobooks. I've tried listening to nonfiction and whatnot, but for the most part, you want to listen to fiction. Good novel will just be really good and help you to stay engaged. And when you're driving, and concentrate on the driving task, because it's boring when you're driving out on the interstate for very long periods of time. Know as well that when you are driving on the interstate, driving on the freeway for very long periods of time, and you come off the freeway or highway, you will be experiencing something called velocitization, where you get accustomed to the very high speed. So for example, if you're driving east to west across Montana, which is 700 miles, it's 1,000 kilometers, all right, it's 80 miles an hour is the speed limit. It's 140 kilometers an hour. So you've been doing that for 5 hours or 6 hours on the interstate, hopefully 2 hours because you took a break. But when you come off the highway or interstate, you're still not really accustomed to getting your vehicle slowed down. So make sure that you're looking at the gauges, looking at your speedometer, so that you slow down when you come off the interstate or freeway, because you're going to be experiencing that. You're going to be going a lot faster than you think you are when you come off the freeway. So just be aware of that as well. So brakes, one person is responsible for navigation. If somebody's with you, make sure that you're looking at the overhead signs. Figure out your mile markers, okay? Do a little bit of research on Google before you take off for your trip. Figure out where your brakes are going to be. And as well, for anybody else, Corey's put up the video for tips for long road trips there and whatnot. Excuse me. When you're driving in the summertime and you need hotels, make sure you book your hotels a couple of months in advance. Or no, sorry. Make sure you book your hotels at least a week before you take your trip. Otherwise, you may not get a hotel. 3 years ago, I think it was 2020 when we came back from Ontario to British Columbia, we had booked hotels, and there were other people that were coming in and looking for hotels and said, oh, we've been to like 12 places and couldn't get a hotel. So make sure you book your hotels before, a week out so that you get a hotel room. Marion, you feel like you want to get out of the car and walk when you slow down? Yes, indeed, for sure. Megan, as someone who plans on taking a road trip in the future, hoping I pass my road test, that's a good question. Excellent. Yes, and road trips are a lot of fun. Okay, book your hotel rooms, book your breaks, have your food and snacks in the car, your drinks and whatnot, and then every time you stop, for me, I have a cooler in the back of the car. I keep my drinks in, keep my sandwiches and those types of things. Just take the drinks and snacks out of the back and put them in the front so they're accessible, so you're not reaching around and those types of things. And if you're with somebody else, as I said, get them to help you navigate, right? Because, you got the phone there and it's navigating those types of things. Take note of mile markers, right? Where are the mile markers that are going to help you to navigate so you can get off the interstate and get back on the interstate and those types of things? Know exactly where you're going. Elevator, if you were staying at a hotel, make your reservation ahead of time. Absolutely. Yes, that is great tips. Epic, regarding buses, do they share the same commercial license restrictions as truck drivers, 11 hours on the road? Because the one time when my mother was on the bus, she had her driver doze off. Yeah, that's not good when they doze off. But yes, Epic, commercial bus drivers are subject to the same rules as truck drivers. It's only a maximum of 11 hours. They have to take breaks and those types of things when they're driving in the United States. Okay, so know that, yes, all subject to the same fatigue management rules. What is the word I'm looking for? Compliance, according to logbooks. They're all subject to that. Elevator, if you are leaving the country, make sure that you get your passport ahead of time and make sure that it's valid. I'm smiling, I'm laughing about that, about passports and making sure they're valid, because when we went to Spain, Tracy and I went to Spain, we were talking to this couple that was from Texas. She was a British citizen, and so the kids had dual passports, right? They had UK passports and they had American passports. I think they did anyway, maybe not. But one of the kids' passports had expired. And apparently, they were wealthy and they were flying business class. So they get to England, they were flying through England to go to Spain, and they realized that one of the kids' passports had expired. Now, fortunately, they were in England, so they were able to go to her parents' place and stay there while the husband went to the American embassy to get the passport, a temporary passport, for the one child whose passport had expired so that they could fly on to Spain. However, they didn't make their flight, so their flight was canceled. They had to buy a new flight to get to Spain, and then they said that they had to spend another $3,200, and they had to fly economy, so they were in the back of the bus. They weren't flying business class with their family anymore to get there. So yes, make sure that your passport is valid so that you don't have to make an emergency stop at the embassy, and it's not going to cost you a heap of money because you have to get a new plane ticket to get to whatever destination that you're going to. And as well, know that if you're an American or you're a Canadian crossing the border back and forth, that you now have to have a passport. You now have to have a valid passport, because if you don't, they're gonna turn you back. They're gonna reject you at the border. So know that. Rebecca, do you recommend everybody get a dash cam? Rebecca, I don't recommend that everybody get a dash cam, okay? Remember, the dash cams are not just watching what other people are doing. They're also watching and recording what you are doing as well. So know that, and really, you know, they don't record. The video quality is not that good. We talked about this morning. They will not record license plate numbers, but you can leave yourself audio notes, okay? And you know, I've seen heaps and heaps and heaps of dash cam footage on the internet, because I mean, you can go on Twitter, you can go on Facebook, you can watch this dash cam footage all the time. Maybe in some cases it's going to help you out, but not in every case. And if you get into a crash and you have dash cam footage, it may be used against you in a court of law. It can be subpoenaed and they can use it against you. So know that that it's not always going to work out for you. So, you know, if you don't really need a dash cam, I wouldn't recommend you getting one. But, you know, they're cheap and they're inexpensive now, and you can get them. 247, to piggyback off elevator, who do you use a vehicle in another country that uses opposite side driving and gear shifting on some of the vehicles being that's different from the USA? Oh, okay. These goofy people that have vehicles on the other side of the road. So, for example, it's a right-hand drive and you're driving it in North America. Those people are just, they're dumb. Okay, they're dumb. Because they've done studies to show that people who have a car that's designed for the other side of the road are 40% more likely to be in a crash. Okay, they have them here in British Columbia, and I see a lot of people driving around with right-hand drive cars. And I just think to myself that the government needs to be more strict on this, that these vehicles cannot come in, because it's not a road system designed for these vehicles. You're sitting on the other side of the road. It's dumb. Okay, that's my feeling about it. It's hard enough going to another country that drives on the left side of the road and being in a vehicle that's a right-hand drive and actually trying to drive on the left side of the road. Asked my kids about it when we went to Australia last fall. You get off a long flight and you're tired, and then it's like, oh, left side, got to stay on the left, got to stay on the left, got to stay on the left, okay? All your vantage points are wrong in those cars when you're on the opposite side of the car and trying to drive on roadways that were designed for you to sit in the center of the road. It doesn't work. Mallory, the longest road trip I've ever been on is 6.5 hours. Yeah, that's a good road trip for sure. That's about what it takes us to get down to the ferry, and that's a good run. Marion, I think truck drivers should not have to drive for 13 hours. I think that's too long, especially on our roads in British Columbia. Marion, I don't disagree with you. However, the industry has not changed much in the last 50 years, and you're right. 13 hours of driving time, that is a very long time to be behind the wheel of a big truck. Bus driver sleeping behind the wheel, yeah, that's a bit scary. And Corey's put up the video on how to drive on the right and left hand side of the road. So tonight we were talking about frequently asked questions for you to pass and be successful on your driver's test first time. Have a look at those. Look at the presentation. Yes, you have to move to the right lane after turning left on a multi-lane roadway. You can use a backup camera. You can use your mirrors when reversing. All those frequently asked questions that we get for new drivers who are preparing and going for their driver's test. Marion, do you know that people with the N license cannot drive in different countries? I did not know that. Marion, that is information to me as well. I did not know that either. Okay. 247, yeah, what I'm worried about if I ever went to rent a car, I was in the UK. Okay, 247, if you go to the UK and you rent a car in the UK, it will be a right-hand drive car. Okay, you will not get a left-hand drive car in the UK. These are personal vehicles. Rental companies would not take on that kind of liability. It will be a right-hand drive in the UK. Same thing when I was in Australia. I got a right-hand drive car, okay? And if you're in North America, you're going to get a left-hand drive car. If you're in Europe, you're going to get a left-hand drive car if you're driving. So yeah, don't worry about that, okay? It's not going to be something that you're going to have to deal with. And believe me, for those of us that drive on the right and you go to a country where they drive on the left, Japan, South Africa, Cyprus, Jamaica, Australia, at the UK and you get in a right-hand drive vehicle, it's a bit of a challenge. It's a bit of a transition when you first start driving, so know that. Elevator sleeping behind the wheel can cause crashes. Yes, it can. Sleepy drivers rest in pieces. Get enough sleep. Get enough rest for sure. Epic, another thing about right-hand drive vehicles in the United States, in North America, these will be your garbage trucks, postal vehicles. I wonder if they need a specialized training to drive them. Epic, no, they don't. Those are specialized vocational vehicles. What we're talking about is personal vehicles that have been imported into the country. And unfortunately, the government has allowed this, and it's usually the state and provincial governments, and I disagree with it. I disagree with it on every level. It is not safe, and every observation and viewpoint in that vehicle. So for example, if you're driving on the right and you have a right-hand drive vehicle, you are sitting on the wrong side of the road to observe correctly. It's not safe at all. Okay. Megan, what if you start feeling tired while you're driving on the freeway, etc.? Where do you go to sleep? Megan, good question. If you're on the freeway, interstate, go into a rest area, okay? There's lots of rest areas, lots of gas stations, those types of things. You know, maybe not a gas station, but a parking lot, mall parking lot or whatnot. Lock your doors, get a bit of sleep. Police officers are not going to bother you if you're in a rest area and having a bit of sleep. You are allowed to be there for up to a maximum. I think it's 12 hours, maybe 24 hours. Before you have to move on, you can get some sleep. A police officer would rather you be sleeping in a rest area than out on the freeway driving tired. So that's what you need to do. The other piece, I mean, you can get a hotel room. Some years ago when I was driving down to the rental property, as I said, it's an 8-hour drive, including the ferry over to Vancouver Island. And I was coming back and it was midnight. I had driven down in the morning, done some work there, and then I was driving back and it was midnight and I was in Vancouver. I just went in and got a hotel room. Okay. And it was a couple $100, which is fairly expensive, was pricey at the time. I mean, they're still pricey, but, you know, I would rather spend $200 than, you know, have a car crash and risking myself and risking other people on the roadways. So yes, you can sleep in your car, sleep in a rest area, pull into a parking lot that's not full and those types of things, but get a hotel room and whatnot. Uncert, if you're in a 50-kilometer zone, how much slower should you go over train tracks? Depends on the train tracks, really. But essentially, you know, want to slow down. There usually is a recommended speed when you're approaching the railway crossing. Take your foot off the brake pedal, take your foot off the accelerator, and then just let the vehicle roll over the tracks, right? Most of the time it's going to be a level crossing. They're pretty good now. There aren't any that are really crazy. Years ago when I was driving truck in the state of Arkansas, you know, backwater Arkansas with rednecks, I was driving truck and there was a friend of mine was with me. And we come through town, this little town, and we go past the variety store, the convenience store, which is, you know, old white clapboard with a porch on the front. And there's a couple of good old boys standing out front chewing tobacco or whatever they were doing, and looked at me as I was going through town. And they gave me kind of a weird look. I remember the weird look as I was going through town. And so we get out of the other side of town and we start going down this bit of hill, and there's a railway crossing down there, and I just reached over and I touched my friend on the shoulder and I said, hang on. So the hill was like this, the railway crossing was like this, and then the hill continued on the other side of the railway crossing. I come down with the truck and it launched the truck in the air, and I was not going very fast. That was probably the only railway crossing that I ever encountered that actually caused the truck to gain air. So, you know, most of them are going to be okay, especially on highways and those types of things. It's going to be flat and it's going to be okay. But, you know, I usually move out of the main tracks on railway crossings. I will move to the right so that I'm out of the main tracks of all the other traffic. And like I said, take your foot off the brake, take your foot off the accelerator, and that will just allow the car to roll over and the suspension to do its work and whatnot. So keep yourself safe. Elevator, I've never seen recommended speed signs for railway crossings. Now that I think about it, elevator fan, I've never seen them either. So that was a mistake on my part. Thank you for correcting that. Thank you for keeping me honest. Excellent. Okay, so we answered all those questions. So frequently asked questions, passing a driver's test, the 4 skills you need to be successful on a driver's test: space management, speed management, observation, and communication. And Corey will put up that video for you. Have a look at that, and good luck in your driver's test. The Dukes of Hazards. Yes, I was in a big truck, in a semi truck. Yes. Striker, come here. Come. Come here. Say hi. He's all bent out of shape because there's deer in the backyard, and it is driving him absolutely bonkers. Are you bonkers because there's deer in the backyard? The woodsman. Are you the woodsman? Okay. All right, we'll leave it there for tonight. Thank you so much for participating, all your great questions on the live stream. And if you have a test, you had passed the test in the last couple of weeks, congratulations on that. If you have a test coming up in the next week or so, good luck on that. And remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. Have a great night. Bye now.